Subnautica.
We only have one.
Okay, yeah.
Just our candidate.
Well, let's jump along to Subnautica then, because I'm excited to see it in action in Oculus, in VR.
So how are you broadcasting this? Is it just like I don't know how you broadcast in VR these days.
Well,
So-
Not the split screen anymore, right?
Yeah, we'll have a thing where everyone watching at home, and to those of you listening on the podcast, you'll need to use those headphones, by the way.
Right.
But
Oh yeah, you took them off. Huh?
yes, we did.
like
Everyone
in the
watching at
commercial.
home and everyone listening on the podcast, I'm sorry, this is going to be a slightly less visual experience, but we will try our best to make it an audio journey as well.
Look at that cool new main menu, Max.
This is my favorite thing about VR.
It's kind of the best part.
But what you'll see on Twitch and on YouTube is the view out of Max's left eye.
Okay.
So you're going to see a full screen view of the game. You can see here on Twitch what they're
Okay,
seeing.
yep.
And he's going to look around like normal, and we'll be able to see out of the left eye of his character. So
Gotcha.
everything's going to be a little skewed. Like when you have like the knife out, we are not going to see that on the video feed because that's out of the right eye, and you hold it in your right hand. I actually checked the menu before we started to see if there was an option to go left-handed just for that, but
Nope.
there you go.
Way too much work just to accommodate
Unfortunately,
left-handers.
this won't actually display properly the loading.
Oh, really?
Oh,
It's
okay.
actually showing something different in the Rift.
Well, if you need the remote, I just put the simple input device over there too.
Oh, our remote doesn't work, so
I don't even know what the remote is for.
It's kind of just.
It's for like if you're doing like a video player or something like that.
You're just gonna hang that off your wrist while you're playing.
It's just another kind of
You feel
controller.
like super dork.
All right, you should talk about the game.
Yeah. So
Okay,
what
we'll
you-
say like we cut off the intro sequence. This is one of the changes we had to make for VR because we had all this like scripted camera stuff as you crash land. This is one of those things that you realize in VR it will make you puke instantly. So there's little changes like that. Also, Max just went up the ladder. Normally we have like a climbing up animation.
Right, I noticed that as
Now
well.
it's a teleport in VR.
Yeah, we had to disable all that stuff.
Yep.
I guess let's jump into that real quick because how much did you do on trying to make people make sure they don't get sick when they play? Because this is
A
the
lot.
type of game that does that, right?
Yeah.
You're moving with a controller in first
Yeah,
person, and
yeah.
that is the biggest culprit of making people sick in VR.
True.
So what did you do to kind of combat that?
Max, can you talk and play at the same time?
Because
he did most of it.
I mean, this game is reasonably well suited
Do you want
for
me to-
that. I mean, you're
You
right.
drive and you look.
No, that
No.
might
Okay.
That
Okay.
Might make,
I'll make you insta vomit. Sorry.
yeah, it's
Emergency.
so that's
10
definitely something that can make you
seconds
sick when
remaining.
your head is moving without your actual head moving.
Yeah.
So like in Subnautica, I can turn my head to look, but I can only turn so far, right? So if I want to keep going, I need to use the controller. And we basically did, I don't know, I guess this is kind of the obvious thing to do what we're doing right now. I want to experiment with it more. This is very much like an early access of early access.
Yeah. Also, I guess real quickly what we should do is, can you just give a quick rundown of what Subnautica is for those who have never played it, never seen it, don't know what it is?
Oh, I can do it. Yeah. Subnautica is an open world underwater game. It's a survival kind of crafting game. So you crash land on this alien underwater planet. You don't know why. And all you can do is jump out of your escape pod and dive into the water. And that's where you start to figure out how to survive. You find resources, you drag them back to your escape pod, you craft things. You find fragments of technology which you later assemble into full recipes, so you can build first submersibles and a constructor machine which lets you build bigger things like a full-on submarine. Later you can deck out your submarine with all sorts of modules and machines. You can build underwater bases. It's definitely an open world game, so we don't tell you what to do ever. Kind of in the reign of Don't Starve. We just kind of put you out there and you play it the way you want to. Right now we're adding story elements. So again, we're not going to lead you towards any particular way of playing it, but there will be a story to discover. It's quite a cool one.
Emergency.
And
10 seconds
basically we just find that people
remaining.
start exploring by going down. And the game is in a way like Terraria. It's all about digging. It's all about seeing how deep you can go and seeing, you have to change. I mean, you might have to build a base 200 meters down and then use that as a new base station to then go another 100 meters. And then you build down there. And you just keep going down. that's the game.
And I gotta say, it's gorgeous. Like, it was one of the things that when I first got Subnautica like years ago, or not years, excuse me, like probably at least a year. When did you guys go into early access?
December 2000. Let's see, 15. 14?
Must have been 14.
Right at the end of the year, 2014. Yeah.
So I think I started playing Subnautica kind of the beginning of 2015, and it immediately struck me how kind of just beautifully you've made the world, because it's so vibrant, it's so like neon rather than just these dull colors, and it's so unlike kind of any other aesthetic of any other survival game available.
Ah, interesting. We wanted to. I mean, that's one good thing about being on an alien planet. We can really go crazy with the fantastic creatures and glowiness, and I guess even if we did this on Earth, there's so much crazy stuff underwater. We could do that too.
Right.
But we wanted your initial experience in these. We call this the safe shallow area. So you always start in safe shallows, although you start in random places. People think it's a randomly generated terrain, but it's not.
Oh.
We started that way, and we really worked hard to try to make that work, and we eventually just decided to make one lovingly crafted giant world, and then we spawn you in a different starting spot each time. People always, it's so funny, it's such a great little trick. People think it's a different world every time. But anyway, so we start you in this is the colorful, safe area.
So how did you do that? Did you randomly generate the world and then kind of go in and fine tune it?
No, well, actually that's not totally true. No, I mean, we basically designed a huge height map. We used a software called World Generator. So we made, what is it? Oh, World Machine, thank you. And we generated a huge height map for a world. And we iterated on that for a long time and sculpted it down. And then we started replacing it with our own handcrafted voxel terrain.
Yeah,
wow.
Level designers go in and they use some tools that we built to basically sculpt all this out. Place all the things in there. Most of them. I guess a few things are kind of randomly.
Yeah, oops, I'm moved here. Max is looking to the left, so we can't hear him as well.
If Max is off in the distance at any point, it's because he's actually looking around the room.
I lost my escape pod.
That's really interesting. So like when you say that you spawn in a different spot every time, are there multiple like safe shallows away from each other, or you just spawn in a different area?
It's actually
of
safe
that?
Shallows is the one biome that's all contiguous.
Oh,
It's in the center of the map, so it's one giant safe shallows. But yeah, there's infinite spawning locations within it.
Gotcha.
It's just a huge region. Yeah, there's not like a set number of points or anything.
I remember the first time I spawned into the game, there was basically like the terrain had come up just high enough to be like a little bit of a shoal. Like it was
okay. Yep.
And I thought it was very cool. Oh, you just got hit hard.
Yep. Watch out for those crashes.
What
Too bad you
creature was
couldn't
that?
shoot him. If I had Kimbo pistols, I could have shot him.
Then how do you fight the hostile creatures?
You don't.
What do you do?
You
just
don't.
run?
We have ways that you can deal with them. We have a stasis rifle, which if you can find all the pieces and craft it, that will freeze things in place.
So it's like a stun gun instead of
it's like a stun
killing?
gun. Yep, exactly.
Cool.
But the game really isn't about dealing with creatures. I mean, you just want to be careful. You want to avoid them when you can. We are working on making, just adding more gameplay to the creatures. I'm probably gonna at some point going to add a DNA transfuser. So if you can get close to a creature and you can get a sample of their DNA, you can use that as a crafting ingredient.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's something we've wanted for a really long time. Currently not working on it, but really want to add that. So, good.
So you just crafted a welder
Yep.
from parts
From
you
the
picked off of the
fabricator.
ocean floor.
Yep. Well, yeah, basically. Yep. Yep.
This is the challenge with a crafting mechanic, is how do you actually make it make any sense whatsoever?
It's not much of a challenge because people are so
They just
forgiving.
accept it.
Yeah, they just want to play the game.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
you just barely have to make it work.
you guys just kind of leaned into it. Like the crafting thing that makes the giant ships that just it's like they appear in the air.
Yeah,
It's like,
well,
oh,
so
great.
now we actually have little robots that fly out and they construct it with nanites. That's always our fallback for Natural Selection 2 in this.
This game's not really going for hyper realism. I don't think.
No, it's not. It's not. Although I mean, people always malign the recipes, which are all my fault. But
What do you mean?
I feel happy with them because quartz makes sense. You can build glass out of quartz. You build a scuba tank. You build that out of metal and quartz because there's glass in a dial. I don't know. It's kind of low tech, but You know, there's consistency. Like, you know, try to think of some examples. Like fiber. You know, whenever you use fiber, you're using Creepvine. You use fiber for bandages. You know, so that's part of the first aid kit. I don't know. It's tenuous,
But
but
I want it to be intuitive for players.
as much as it can be, and you know,
and
it's
not
really
be
difficult.
Totally ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, the trick is, you know, you can't just choose whatever ingredients you want because they have to come from the world.
So what is this creature called?
That's a stalker.
The alligatory mouth thing.
Yeah, that's a stalker.
The first time one of those things chased me while in VR was genuinely terrifying.
That's funny.
It's a really horrifying process
That's
to
funny.
swim backwards away from one of those.
It's funny. People always tell us that we accidentally made a horror game. We hear that all the time.
There's a
we
lot
kind
of
of did.
really terrifying
There's some. I
creatures.
mean, it's all in your mind, of course, but you know, the darkness and then the depth and the giant caves and you know, Max is staying right near the surface, but I mean, this game goes down currently about 1,000 meters.
Wow.
He's at like 5 right now. So it gets darker and it also gets more colorful depending where you go. We wanted to make sure that it didn't just become monotonous dark as you get down deeper. So it's a lot of phosphorescent stuff down there.
A question from the chat from Sarah Amai in the chat, which I guess this question has to be asked after Ark Survival Evolved coming out, is how does the player poop?
Yeah, we avoided that.
Ark has made you
did it.
answer that question, though.
Oh my God, it's so dumb. I admit that I laughed really hard when the first time that happened, but it's so dumb.
It's hilarious that it's like actually a mechanic too in that game.
Can you craft something out of your own poop?
I believe fertilizer.
Out of your own poop?
I believe so.
I mean, it would make sense. I should hope so.
I think so. I might be wrong about that.
I mean, I'm sure you can do it from the dinosaur poop. So we actually, believe it or not, we are adding scat as we speak. There's one, but it's only from one creature.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a giant creature that we have not seen yet.
If there's one thing that other survival games have taught me, it's that all you got to do is add races, genders, and dongs to the game, and you'll get 1 million downloads, man.
Oh my God! if only it were that easy.
Yeah. It might be. I'm not
It's
sure.
not. No, it's definitely not that easy. I'm pretty sure Rust. I mean, Rust was a phenomenon before any of that.
Yeah.
You know. and they
Yeah,
started it.
definitely. No, I
And not to
agree.
mention Ark. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Now you're at night, so there is a day-night cycle to the game.
There is. Yeah.
And does that affect what kind of creatures come out, or is it just
Not
aesthetic?
too much. We do have. I mean, some creatures change their behavior at night. This is part of the early access part. Creatures in particular have been one of the most difficult parts of this game to get right, and we're still working on it. But yeah, some creatures slow down. There's actually a lot of small little things that change. We would like them to be bigger things, but right now it's more of a navigational issue.
Well, let's talk about that real quick too, because you guys do pretty much a large update to the game like once a month.
That's about right,
With
yeah.
a video trailer, like showing it off and everything.
We call them headliner updates.
Yeah.
We got this from TF2. Yeah, because we saw that. I mean, people love the small updates, so we do those, and those are great. Bug fixes and quality of life fixes. But if you don't have something juicy that people can wrap their head around, it's you don't get the growth that you would otherwise.
Right.
And so I think we started that with the Aurora patch. I can't remember when we first added that crashed spaceship up on top.
Yeah.
At one point when you first started playing, what are you laughing at?
Just the Oculus Rift is like almost rubbing against the microphone, and it's like
You
Have to
lose all sense of like
Yeah.
body
place.
positioning.
I know.
It's incredibly
It's
funny.
really funny. Whenever I come to the office, Max is usually there before me, and half the time I see him just craning his head around in VR,
Yes.
seemingly oblivious to the world. It just makes me laugh
It's
every
kind of
time.
awkward. Like if I'm there early by myself, I'll keep the door locked so that
Yeah.
somebody doesn't just wander in on the street and you
Because
have
you
no idea.
can't hear him, can't see him. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you're using the separate headphones that we have for the show right now, but the Oculus Rift headphones are surprisingly
nice.
noise canceling.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it's really kind of startling. Like, I still think that there was a guy in our office who was saying it's not too long before somebody gets robbed while they're in VR, right?
Wow,
just
yeah.
standing in their living room playing a game, and somebody just walks in, takes their computer, and
yeah.
walks
Oh my
out.
God, that'd be awesome. Not awesome, but
Not awesome,
interesting.
but it's gonna happen.
Well, if there's only a way to find out who was online, if it was tracking who was actually using the Rift, you could do it automatically by IP address. Who shall I rob next?
It's the next level of thievery there.
Yep.
Wow, it's like a reefback
It's-
convention over here.
Oh no.
Did you just die?
Maybe.
I died.
Oh, yeah, he does. We let it go really long, like an extra
Yeah.
couple seconds.
Was
but-
that the oxygen? Running out of oxygen?
Yeah, I ran out of
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was too immersed in the virtual reality.
So on the updates though, what was your last headliner update?
What was our last one?
I mean,
Oh, was
VR
it not
kind of our
H2O?
last update. I don't know if
It was
Yeah,
the
not
crash
quite.
sequence one. Was that it?
Yeah, that was
intro,
not.
yeah.
It wasn't exact. I don't know if it was actually a headliner, and it was like right in the middle. Because did we even make a video for it? I don't think we.
Yep.
Did we? Did we make a website? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Because usually, yeah, we've been like making custom websites just for the updates. I mean, the H2O update was our biggest one, definitely. We made a special website, video. Oh my God, that one was big. That's really important for us to continue, growing our sales, or even just keeping our sales from dropping.
Yeah.
It's been a huge good move we made with this game, and part of the learning process.
People seem to respond pretty well to it.
Yeah, they do.
You know, they frequently tell us that they're really excited about the frequency of significant updates.
Yep.
For an early access game.
Is it hard to keep that pace?
It's super hard. It's super hard. Yeah, right now we're straddling a whole bunch of different updates, and it's just hard to keep them all straight. It's challenging, but it also is exciting for the team to release stuff like that, and especially when the tubers start covering it. It's super exciting. All of a sudden, Jacksepticeye or Markiplier puts a video up about
Oh, no, I'm
the
gonna die
patch.
again.
That's twice.
No, you got it.
No, you'll make it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also just like hugely a perception thing. Like early access games can quickly get the reputation of, oh, that's a dead game that never
Right.
gets updated anymore.
Yeah,
that's been abandoned.
Like
right?
a year ago, that was a trend where people were just abandoning their games, and we were arguing whether we should do early access at all, because people were saying, early access is a sucky model.
Yeah.
And we did it anyways, and then we're pretty experienced in the early access model, because we actually did this both for Natural Selection 1 and Natural Selection 2. So dating back to 2000, we've been doing this. So this is our normal way of operating.
So you're early access hipsters. Is
We
what you're
kind of
saying.
are. We did it before it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
really challenging, though.
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
balance, where you're not just focusing on what's best for development, you're also focusing on what's best for the people who are playing the game right now, what's going to be best for sales, and things like
Yeah.
that.
Whoa.
And sometimes you you don't want to put in something showy just to get a boost, but sometimes, I don't know, I feel like we probably have to at some point. We've been really lucky with this game. It's just been growing. We've never worked on a game like this where it just grew. It's usually been, you release the final version, or even like with NS2, we put out a lot of updates, but we were never on Steam until 1.0 because they didn't have an early access model.
Right.
And NS2, it's Natural Selection 2. It did really well in the beginning, and #1 on Steam for a while, like a week, and then it just dropped off, and it would never stop dropping no matter how many updates we did.
Wow.
And Subnautica has been the opposite. We launched it in December of 2014, and it wasn't doing well at all. Like, we were not profitable. We were really in trouble. We'd spent all this money making this game, and then over time it slowly started growing, and then those headliner updates started moving the needle, and then Jacksepticeye found us, and then YouTube started finding us, and it's just been, we have the highest sales we've ever had right now, and it seems to be stable.
That's
which is-
interesting.
It's unbelievable.
It's a very interesting way that happens with sales in early access games, where I feel like the model, and maybe you can correct me because obviously you've been on the other side of the industry for a long time, but I feel like it used to be you wanted to have this big launch.
Yep,
And
that's the
now
old model.
And now it's see how if you can just be steady
Yep.
with sales.
Or growing.
Right.
So, and part of that, I think actually most of it is that you're actually making the game more of the game that people actually want. NS2, we released one game at 1.0, and that was, we had so much inertia at that point. It's not like we could suddenly change how the commander worked or change how an alien worked completely, because it's too late. There's too much. The cost would be too high, and players would get angry at us. But with early access, we're evolving the game towards the game that people seem to respond to.
Yeah.
So specifically, we didn't, people really responded to the reef back, which is that huge It's a huge, almost like floating turtle type creature.
Is that the thing with the big like mace-like tail?
It's
Has three
yeah, it's three
tentacles.
a bunch of tentacles, and they like moan in the distance, and like we always get a reaction when people see those for the first time. And that was one of the things we learned from that is people love giant underwater creatures. They don't. The small things are cute and everything, but people really respond, even if he has no gameplay. Just a huge creature. So that totally changed how we worked on our next creatures. We started putting in the Reaper Leviathan, which is this giant aggressive creature which can eat your submarine. And people, it's all sound too. I mean, that thing is. We realized people love the sound of the Reefback. And then when you hear the Reaper Leviathan for the first time in the distance, people just freak. And so in other words, I'm trying to say that we've evolved the game. We've learned what people like.
Right.
And luckily, that's stuff that we love too. If they liked giant torpedo guns, then we would say sorry. But they happen to like stuff that we like. So we're learning, and we're making the game better by people playing.
So your ship's computer, while we were talking there, just to jump back a little bit, was talking a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
What was it saying there? For
blah 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 blah.
That's what happens when you hire a writer.
Yeah.
The game talks to you a lot.
That's true. We hired Tom Joubert, who did the story for FTL and the Swapper and Tails Principle. So he has been the main guy. I mean, we've all been working on the story with him to kind of integrate it with the levels and the crafting and the world and the creatures. But he has been putting in quite a cool story. But of course, this is the only thing that we do not want to add to early access. The story is the one thing we are holding back to the last possible patch.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard to do that. We're trying. I don't know if we'll be totally successful. But because it's you don't want spoilers for that stuff.
So that's interesting, because that's one of the big things with any early access game with a story is like you don't want it to be. You don't want to get it bits at a time, right?
We're trying
Unless
not
it's
to.
episodic.
Yeah.
So you guys are actually like, you have a story developed, or
Yeah.
at least partially, and you are
Being
just
developed, yep.
You just have it. You're waiting to release it.
So we have bits and pieces like that radio you just saw in the escape pod. That might have been new since last time you played. We have the radio, so we have the mechanism where every so often, you're basically getting voicemail from someone, which is kind of propelling the story forward. There's other places in the world which have places you can pick up pieces of the story, but we're going to be putting those pieces in. I mean, some of those will look a little weird because they'll actually, we're going to carve out an area of the world and not put in the models yet. Other places we'll actually put in like that radio or something like that where you can see where the story's getting delivered, but you're not really getting any story. So it's just a case-by-case basis.
Any hints on what that may be for us?
You're going to have to go to the bottom of the ocean to find out. I'll tell you that much.
That's quite a task, I think.
It's quite a task because it's pretty darn deep.
There was a question earlier that I want to bring back up that was somebody was asking about the possibility of multiplayer.
There is no possibility.
Okay.
So this is the number one question we get all the time is co-op. And this game actually originally, it's hard to say originally, but one of the earliest incarnations of it was designed around co-op. And historically we've been a co-op, or not even co-op, but a multiplayer company with Natural Section 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So multiplayer is near and dear to our hearts. The problem is now to add multiplayer to this game is such a huge amount of work that we would basically have to stop working on any visible updates for a year, and then suddenly we would give you multiplayer. So we know that would be destructive to this game. We don't want to do that. We don't want to destroy it. However,
I've heard from multiple developers that essentially to do multiplayer or networked play, you basically have to take however long you think it's going to take to make the game and then double that timeline.
Oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. Everything has to change. I mean, you're taking a house that you built and you're putting in a new foundation. That's probably easier than it would be than this is. So
it's like one of those well-established ideas is that you can't just add multiplayer in the end. It has to be really technically everything has to be built with multiplayer in mind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that is exactly not how this.
That's not what we did. Not what we did. Now the upside of that is we're not announcing anything, but we've seen how Don't Starve did this, and Don't Starve has such a cool model for this because they put out Don't Starve and then they put out a separate SKU which was Don't Starve Together.
Right.
And it was they used all the assets from the original game. They probably started over technically. I don't know how they did it. They took a lot of time, and they gave it away for free to the original people. I don't know if we would want to do that or not, but then they sold it as a standalone game. I could definitely see us doing a Subnautica together type of thing. I don't know if we'd give it away or not, but I think that would be awesome.
And it would be after Subnautica.
We would have to do it after we do 1.0.
Right.
Yeah, because it's just too much work.
Right.
We have so much to do, and we have a tight timeline. I mean, we're trying to hit 1.0 in August. I don't know if we're going to do it. I mean, we have so much to do. It's ridiculous. It's just sad. We're talking about cutting major features that we really want to hit that. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Would those features, like when you hit 1.0, would you stop updating the game? Or
don't know.
You just don't know?
Knowing us, we would never stop completely.
Right.
But right now we have 25 people working on this game. So the question is, do we keep working on that and keep doing that for months? We did it for too long with Natural Selection 2. We spent a year working on that game, and it was profitable, but barely. And we really should have started working on a new game by then, just for the health of our studio. So I don't see us doing. I mean, unless the sales continue. I mean, who knows? If the sales continue the way we're going, I mean, we could just keep working on this game forever. So which would be pretty wonderful. I mean, I'd want to work on some new games, but most of the team is pretty jazzed to keep working on this.
Cool.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to be done after 1.0. I'm pretty sure we're going to be adding quite a bit more. Just you may have to pay for it. We don't know.
Cool.
We don't know exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, probably a long way off for whatever is decided.
Yeah, we just can't possibly think about that at the moment. We just have so much to do.
Well, that's a good reason to not be able to think about it, I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
Other things going on for the game.
Oh my gosh, a year ago I couldn't have said that. A year ago it was like, I don't know what we should be working on because we had too many ideas and they weren't focused. And that's why we didn't do that well in the beginning. Like Darkest Dungeon, I keep coming back to them as an example, but when they hit early access, they were number 1 on Steam for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, at their early access, well, I don't know about the sales figures now, but they just their sales curve was completely opposite of ours. And we had a really slow launch, but we've turned it around and grown it from there. So the reason why is because we didn't know what to work on. We weren't focused enough in our own minds about the game. There wasn't enough of the game done. And, back then we were thinking this was going to be more sciencey, a lot more sciencey than it is.
Right.
And now we're really listening to what the community is saying and how they're playing the game and really how they respond on video and Twitch and all that. You can see the emotional high points that people have with this game. You can see what really makes them excited, and we try to do more of that.
So someone mentioned in the comment or in the chat as well about how this is not just a VR game. This is originally a just on Steam.
Yeah.
We're just showing it off on the Oculus Rift because it was recently ported to Oculus Rift.
Correct.
And is very cool on Oculus Rift, so we figured why not?
Yep.
Might as well.
It's a good fit for VR though, actually, because of the slow pace of the game, the non-combat aspects, the things moving at different depths. So you look out, you see that wide parallax, and you see the far away areas, you see plants. Yeah. Plus, you have the seated experience in your submersible and submarine.
My stomach got a little turny, but I was actually shocked with how much I was not sick in this kind of experience.
Yeah.
I am very pleased because this is one of the games that when the Oculus Rift first got announced, I was like, I want to play Subnautica in that.
I don't know about the Vive. That's going to be a tough one.
I was going to say,
room-based VR.
Are you guys working on anything with touch or any of the the motion controls?
And Max played around. Maybe you can talk about that. Max played around with some ideas.
Yeah. Well, when we first got the Vive dev kit, I did make a little Subnautica-based experiment.
We need that video.
Where you're walking around in your submarine and you could use the controllers to open lockers.
You could
and stuff like
actually
that.
grab a hatch and flip it open with your controller.
Cool.
It's really cool.
The surprising thing was, when I just made it so there was no controller to move you around, it was just actually walking around the space. How little of an area in the game world you could cover.
Huh.
It wasn't even a single room of the submarine you could walk through. Just 'cause you're just so used to, in video games, you move incredibly fast, traditionally. Compared to how fast you actually move in the real world. And actually in Subnautica, the walking speed in VR is half it is in not normal, whatever, desktop Subnautica, just because it feels insane to be moving that fast and a little bit nauseating. So it's definitely, it's pretty interesting stuff, but it's a little bit difficult to adapt. Something like Subnautica, where we want to be on desktop and was primarily designed for desktop experience, to the room scale VR.
Yeah.
So our plan is to support the Vive's headset before too long. So that'll be similar to playing with the Rift. You use a controller, or I guess you can use the controllers that are on the what do they call them, the hand things.
Have you tried? I'm curious. Have you tried using mouse and keyboard controls while in a VR headset before? Because I imagine it wouldn't work very well.
It's not the best. Originally, when we first started working on the VR, that's how it worked. And actually, if this is the latest, if you unplug the controller, it will go to mouse and keyboard. But it's not great because it doesn't move with your body.
Right.
And it can get a little disorienting. Like if you're not just using WASD, if you need to hit the one key or something, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. That was what I was worried about actually when using Elite Dangerous in the Rift. Was like, there's so many buttons in that game. Like, how are you gonna find them all?
You lose them. You actually have to pull your headset off to go find them. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's really immersion breaking.
It's one of those things where it's part of VR being so early, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do this sort of thing where it's like this, relatively simple control interface experience, but when you get a little more complex and have to use more buttons or something like that, it's not like a travesty. It's just still a problem that needs solving in the VR community.
You really need to just design your game for VR if you really want great results.
Right.
I think we're doing a good job with Subnautica, and I think it's actually pretty compelling, but it's still going to be not as great as if we started from scratch.
Right.
Just made a VR game.
But
maybe that's what we do as part of Subnautica together.
Right.
Like room-based, piloting subs together.
Oh my God.
How cool
that
would be?
That would be pretty great.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So once again, let's wrap up our Subnautica part demo. I was hoping that the Aurora would explode before the end of the demo. But,
okay.
We can make that happen.
We can open it up to Twitch chat while we're still playing. We can open it up to Twitch chat Q&A.
It'd be nice to get some questions here.
Yeah, once again, to anybody who's wondering, this is Subnautica. It is available right now on Steam or on the Oculus Store. If you do have an Oculus Rift, if you're one of the lucky few right now.
Although the version on Steam, I think, Max, right? It works as well as the Oculus Home version.
They should be the same.
The same now? Okay,
Oh,
good.
cool. So you can actually use the Rift through the Steam version. Cool.
Yep, exactly.
We are playing this version through the Oculus Store, so that was just what I was.
Oh, gotcha.
Sure.
Yeah.
Look at that cool moon. It's so awesome. It's so cool.
And while we're waiting for questions to roll in, once again, anybody watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes is always welcome to join us right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And we can take your questions from Twitch chat there too. So be sure to tag us at @PCGamer in the chat, and we'll
Can I do my one plug? Which
Yes,
is
please.
@Flayra, if you want to. I'm the designer on Subnautica, so if you want to see like news or I don't know behind the scenes dev stuff, then you can just follow me @Flayra on Twitter, FLAYRA. And we also have Max McGuire @Max_McGuire.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you can also. What's Subnautica's website if anybody wants to go find it there? You can, of course, find it on the Steam store if you just search Subnautica.
Yeah, I think we're actually unknownworlds.com/Subnautica.
Cool.
I think we still have that.
There we go. All of your Subnautica
Steam,
needs.
Yeah,
there.
a lot of Steam is like where we put most stuff now.
All right. Mildos asks, a question for Charlie. What are your plans for the future development of Natural Selection 2 going forward now that you've officially returned to developing that game?
Yeah, I shouldn't be the person to answer that because Hugh Jeremy is the guy taking over there. So Hugh joined us from Australia back in, 2010 or 11. He was the guy behind Natural Selection 2 HD, which was a really popular NS2 YouTube channel before we finished the game. And he is kind of running that development team, along with Wasabi One, who's from our community. He's done a lot of competitive stuff, and basically our community dev team is taken over, and we're basically just giving them some money to do it, and holding them to really brutal milestones. To see if they can grow the player numbers and revenue and all that stuff, and see if they can bring it back from the brink of the dead. So far so good. They've been doing it for 4 months now, and they've shown some nice signs of life. It's perking up.
The big focus is to increase player retention, so that when new people buy the game, and they try it out, they stick around, and our concurrent player numbers go up, and there's always servers full of people.
Yep. We've seen that people, just looking at the stats, we see that if people play more than 12 hours of Natural Selection 2, often they stick around for hundreds or thousands of hours.
Wow.
And if they play less than 12 hours, they're gone. They never come back. That seems to be the point.
So it's a very dedicated player
It's like
base.
the people that like it really like it, but the hard part is getting people to get to the point where they actually see what's good about the game.
Right.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Well,
stuff. They're doing stuff.
A Glazed asks, will we have surfboards in Subnautica?
No.
No. Straight up?
Next question.
There's no no way to traverse on top of the water?
We've actually talked about adding a boat, but the whole point of this game is going in the water. It's not about above water. We do have a couple areas above water that I make it sound like our team is like totally divided, because I'm always talking about the team wanting things, but there are people on the team who really wanted islands and the exploding spaceship, the Aurora. And so those are in there, and they're cool. But in general, we want to focus you on going down deep. We'd rather add a cool new biome that's 1,000 meters down than add a surfboard. Keep you up on the boring surface.
All right, let's take a couple others.
But jetpack, we should add jetpack.
Jetpack? The one of the water ones? Those you ever see those?
I have seen those.
Yeah.
I Googled or YouTubed water jetpack once, and I've seen people do that.
Yeah. That might fit.
Amazing. Oh, it'd be so fun.
A couple questions about this isn't really our jam here at PC Gamer, but there are a couple questions about the release date for it on Xbox.
Yeah, it's funny. People really want to know that. We announced a release date for the April 1st a while ago, and then missed that. April Fool's. It wasn't an April Fool's joke, I promise. But then we just had another internal date, which I won't tell you when that was. We just slipped on that today. We just realized it's not ready. So we don't have a date, and we actually do have a date internally now. It's not far off.
Oh.
But I don't want to really say what it is. Oh, get up there.
So the ship is about to
Ship's
explode.
blowing up. You should see all the shockwave underwater. I think some of this stuff broke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the physics stuff isn't working properly anymore.
So the ship exploded, but you were underwater,
Yep.
so you just saw the shockwave of dust.
And that's something we debated for a really long time. Should we have it explode only when you're at the surface, only when you're looking at it? And then, my argument always was that if you made it so people would actually see the explosion every time, then you would also make it, wall break, fourth wall breaking. Because then people will, in the wiki, it would always say, after the second day, go to the surface and glance at the Aurora, and you'll trigger the explosion. Then swim back down, and it's not like that. It blows up randomly, and it gives you hints ahead of time. If we were listening to the audio, hopefully you would have understood those hints. And often you see it, and sometimes you don't. We just wanted to make it cool no matter where you were when it exploded. And that's actually a huge design goal for this game. We don't tell you how to do anything. We let you do it your own way, and we try to make it rewarding for how you do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Vivian,
Last thing about
please.
Xbox. So Xbox is coming. We don't have a date. I mean, we do have a date internally. I don't want to tell you guys because people get really angry when we slip. So I've just learned not to tell people. And
it's a diplomatic solution.
yeah, I guess so. I like to be open. It bugs me to not say things. I'd rather give a date and have it slip. But it's not working well enough yet, so we didn't want to ship it. We're gonna make it work a lot better. It should be pretty darn good when we launch.
Cool. Vivian Iolani says, what's the deal with terraforming? Is just the tool going away, or the whole concept like digging in sand?
Yeah, we part of the Xbox, part of the port to the Xbox, we realized that terraforming was going to be a huge technical challenge, basically because we're deforming all this terrain and then having to save it out whenever you leave an area. That becomes really difficult on consoles. But also, terraforming is actually a huge design problem waiting to happen, because we have some elements where you're gated, where you're to get into a cave or out of a cave or into a biome or around a creature. we want to make it difficult. We don't want this to. I mean, it's really difficult to do that in a game where you can essentially fly. You know how this, swimming up and down in every direction. So it makes it even more difficult when you can just destroy all the terrain around you. You could basically just pick any spot you want to and dig straight down until you get to the bottom. And for us, that's a huge problem.
I'm bad at this game.
So basically, that was a long way of saying the terraformer is being removed both for design and technical reasons.
Well, I think we can also make the game perform better on the PC.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point to make. So it's most likely being removed completely. We might be able to salvage it somehow because it is such a cool element. We might be able to allow you to like copy plants and clone them, or maybe have certain rocks that you can mold. I don't know. There might be some way we can keep it.
To Score Pooler, yes, you can ask non-Subnautica questions if you'd like. We're taking all your questions about Subnautica or natural selection or anything you just want to talk about or ask us about in PC Gaming this week. Please feel free to do so.
Ask questions about Trump if you want.
I might veto that one, actually. So another question, JBJ Blaze asked, how would the HTC Vive controllers work with Subnautica? You guys mentioned that earlier about opening chests or opening hatches, and things like that very physically. But he also mentioned asking about mod support. So do you guys have Steam Workshop support? I'm not actually sure.
We don't. We've always supported that stuff. We've been really focused on that as a company for many, many, many years. And I originally was a Half-Life 1 modder. That's what Natural Selection was a Half-Life 1 mod. So we've always been big fans, but nope, we don't have workshop support.
But not against if other people do their own modding.
Oh no! If people come up, if you guys can figure it out, that sounds sweet.
Well, maybe now
I'm sure you can.
That World of Warcraft server, all those people can start.
Oh yeah,
the private Subnautica servers out there.
I'll throw out my one idea that we've talked about for a long time, which I don't know if we'll ever do. You cannot hold me to it. But we mentioned all the level editing tools that we had to build to make this whole world, because we have like 4 or 5 level designers who are building this all by hand.
Wow.
So that stuff is done in Unity, but without too much work, we could probably have that all be done in game. And then we could add an option to the menu, which allows you to make your own world. So if we did that, then people could share their own worlds through Steam Workshop, and then I think that just would be really cool. But we're not planning on doing that anytime soon.
All right, let's see. There are a couple more. There's a question from T Tic Tac asking, are you going to make more monsters like the Reaper Leviathan?
You mean, I wonder if he or she means nasty or big or...
I think that's probably the implication.
Yeah.
It's huge and can screw up your ships and stuff like
comment.
that. Okay. I'll take that as a yes. And then we had another question. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Are you guys fans of the Monster Hunter series?
It's funny someone brings that up. I mean, we always... not always. Sometimes I get pulled into those Monster Hunter games, at least watching their videos, because the animations are so incredible. I've never really spent any time with a Monster Hunter type game. So I guess, I don't know, in a different life, if I wasn't developing games, I'd probably be spending a lot of time playing Monster Hunter games. But I don't play them right now.
Cool.
And I don't know about anyone else on the team. But I think we all wish that we could make our monsters as cool as those monsters in those games.
Well, the designs of the creatures, you were mentioning that you spent some time on them, and I think that shows. They're very unique alien creatures, right? Like they don't
Corey. Yeah.
They don't look a lot like anyone. Like I can't say, oh, these look like aliens from this movie or this world, you know?
Yeah, the hard part, I mean, the thing that makes Monster Hunter so cool is all the telegraphing animations and all the details around the particle systems and animations that allow you to understand how they're moving and anticipate them. And we're not very good at that. I mean, we're trying. We're not making that kind of game, so luckily we don't have to be that good at it. But we would like to, like when a Reaper Leviathan comes near you, it's not really that clear if you can actually avoid it or not. I mean, you might be able to, but we could probably do a better job telegraphing its intent and figuring out a way that you can avoid it. We are working actively right now on some creature enhancements that will allow you to interact with the creatures a lot more generically, which I don't know if I can... Basically, like we have a thing where you can pick up a piece of scrap metal and you can use it to entice a stalker to come near you because they're attracted to scrap metal.
Right.
So we're expanding that to stalkers are attracted to shiny things. And guess what else is shiny? Your scuba tank that's on your back, your sea moth, your little submersible, your escape hat, your escape pod, your submarine. So in theory, you could drop your tank. If there's a stalker coming to attack you, you could drop your tank out of your inventory, and it would be attracted by the tank instead of you. Or like the crash fish right now, they attack you, but they really shouldn't attack you. They should attack something that is like your size or something that makes movement like your movement. So maybe so one of the changes we're putting in now, which is symptomatic of something much bigger, instead of the crash fish blowing up, getting angry and swimming after you when they see a player, which is you, they would get angry when they see a fish about your size. So now you can combine that. You take a piece of scrap metal, or you take a piece of scrap metal, lure a stalker over towards a crash den, and then as he gets close to you, you drop the scrap metal down into the den. He goes after the scrap metal. The stalker is now big enough so he scares the crashes. So they get angry, and then they fly out of their home. And they attack the stalker. They blow up. They are deactivated. Maybe they kill the stalker, and now you swim in and grab the crash powder. So we're a nonviolent game, I promise.
You let the other things do the killing for you.
Yeah, I mean, but we want you to have a generic way and a way that you can improvise with the world, and so we're still working on that.
Well, I think we're actually just running out of time now. Max, we can get you out of the rift if you'd like to help us sign off here. But thank you very much for piloting that way.
Yeah, I wish I did better. I was looking for silver so I could build a base.
Oh,
but
gotta go deeper.
I couldn't find it.
And you've got some great Oculus like face.
Nice.
Yeah, you got the lines on your
Selfie.
face. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, guys, for joining us, Charlie and Max. It was a pleasure to have you on.
The pleasure was ours.
Real quickly, I did see one last question that was somebody asking about our RSS feed. This is kind of a weird thing because I'm speaking to the people listening on iTunes who can't hear us right now because the iTunes RSS feed is broken slightly. But if anybody joining us today is more used to watching on or listening through iTunes or directly on the site, we are having just a few technical difficulties right now. They should get sorted out very soon, and I apologize for those. But I am glad to be back to try to fix those problems and can do it not from Portland now. And I want to thank, once again, Charlie, Max, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for showing off Subnautica.
Thank you. It was awesome.
And thank you to everyone who is either watching on Twitch or YouTube or listening, hopefully, on iTunes or at PCGamer.com. If you do have any comments for us or anything to say about the show, please head over to PCGamer.com/podcast, and later today, this week's episode will be there in a post, and you can go into the comments there and let us know what you think. If we're doing a bad job, a good job, whatever. But thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
My face is tingling.